Imagine waking up one morning and finding that 10,000 rupees has disappeared from your bank account. Scary, right? Or have you ever wondered who actually prints the currency notes in your wallet? Today, we will answer all these questions while mastering the complete banking chapter for ICSE Class 10. Stay till the end because I will also share board exam tricks and important questions. This chapter looks lengthy, but I will divide it into just 3 simple parts. First, we'll understand the central bank. Next, we will master internet banking and digital payments. And finally, we will learn about financial frauds that often appear in board exams. The central bank. Before we even get into functions, I want you to understand why a country even needs one bank standing above all the others. Imagine if every single bank could print its own currency, set its own interest rates, and lend money however it wanted, with nobody supervising them. It would be complete chaos. Different banks printing different amounts of money, some banks lending recklessly and collapsing, no one controlling inflation. That is exactly the problem a central bank exists to solve. Keep that picture in your mind as we go through this section. It will make every function click into place. So, what exactly is a central bank? In your textbook definition, the central bank is the apex, meaning the topmost banking institution of a country. But let's translate that into something you can actually picture. Think of any large franchise business, let's say a chain of retail stores. There's one head office that decides pricing policy, supplies stock, and sets the rules every single branch has to follow. The branches deal directly with customers, but the head office does not. It sits above them, controlling the whole system. And that is your central bank. It sits above every commercial bank, SBI, HDFC, ICICI, Axis, all of them, controlling and regulating the entire banking system of the country. Now let's go through the functions properly. And I mean properly because state the functions of a central bank is one of the most repeated questions in ICSE commercial studies papers. The first function is the sole right to issue currency. This means the central bank or RBI, the only RBI has the legal authority to print and issue currency notes in India. No other bank, not SBI, not any private bank is allowed to print money. Why does this matter so much? Because if multiple institutions could print currency, there would be no way to control how much money exists in the economy, and that directly causes uncontrollable inflation. So this monopoly of note issue is actually a safety mechanism for the entire economy, not just some bureaucratic rule. Secondly, banker to the government. Now, just like you and I have a bank account where our salary or pocket money sits, the government also needs somewhere to keep its funds, make payments, and manage its debts. The RBI plays that role for the Government of India. It manages government accounts, gives economic advice on policy decisions, and manages what's called public debt, meaning the money the government borrows through bonds and securities. Thirdly, it's the banker's bank, also called the custodian of cash reserves. Here's a simple way to picture this. Just like you keep your savings in a bank for safety, commercial banks are required to keep a portion of their reserves with the RBI. And if a commercial bank ever runs into serious trouble, say it's facing a sudden rush of withdrawals it cannot handle, the RBI can step in and lend to that bank. That's why RBI is also called the lender of last resort, the final safety net when no one else will lend. Let's continue with 3 more functions, and these 3 are just as important for your exam. Fourth function says controller of credit. This is where the RBI actively manages how much money is flowing through the economy using tools like cash reserve ratio, statutory liquidity ratio, and the repo rate, the rate at which RBI lends to commercial banks. Think of it like a tap. If there's too much money in the economy, causing prices to rise too fast, the RBI tightens the tap, raises rates, makes borrowing money more expensive, slows down spending. If the economy is sluggish, it loosens the tap, that is, lowers the rates, encourages borrowing and spending. That's monetary policy in one sentence, and it's entirely controlled by central bank. Fifth function says custodian of foreign exchange reserves. The RBI holds and manages the country's reserves of foreign currency, dollars, euros, and so on, and uses this to keep the rupee's exchange rate stable. Without this, the value of our currency could swing wildly based on global market panic. And lastly, the sixth function, that's the clearing house function. When you write a check to someone who banks with a different bank than you, that check has to be cleared between the two banks, meaning money actually moves from your bank to theirs. The RBI facilitates this clearing process between all commercial banks, making the whole system run smoothly. Now, here's my honest exam tip. You do not need to write an essay for each of these 6 functions. If a question asks for any 3 functions, pick the 3 you understand best. Write one clear line explaining what it does and ideally why it matters. That's a full mark structure, and it's exactly the structure I just used for each one. Pause the video and answer honestly before looking at the solution. Practicing like this trains your brain better than simply reading notes. Wherever you see a difference question in ICSE, never write paragraphs. Write point-wise comparisons. This fetches better marks and saves time during the exam. Let's go through it point by point slowly, and I want you to notice the pattern, not just memorize 5 random facts. Number in a country. This is the basis. Central bank is only one, an apex body, whereas commercial bank, they are many and spread it across the country. Notice the pattern, already one controls, many operate. Deal with public. This is the second basis, where the central bank does not deal directly with you or me. It deals with the government and with other banks. Whereas commercial banks deal directly with the public, that's you opening a savings account, taking a loan, or depositing cash. The third basis, currency issue. Only the central bank has the right to issue currency. Commercial banks cannot print a single note, they can only circulate what already exists. Fourth basis, motive. The central bank works for public welfare with no profit motive, whereas commercial banks are profit motivated institutions. That's literally their business model, and they earn through interest and fees. And lastly, control. The central bank regulates and controls every commercial bank. Commercial banks, in turn, are regulated by the central bank. Do you see the underlying story here? Everything traces back to that same head office versus branches analogy from earlier. Once you understand the role difference, all 5 of these points follow logically. You are not memorizing 5 separate facts. You are understanding one relationship from 5 different angles. Pause here, screenshot this table, and try re-explaining it in your own words before moving on. Stay tuned for the upcoming part. Second part will drop in soon.